Hey everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Karen Hill. I hope everyone is going great and doing fun shit as a daily occurrence. In this episode, we talk about stage racing around the world, Tour de Timor, the Himalaya stage race, Yak Attack, and Rumble in the Jungle in Sri Lanka. We also chat about her Torres Strait Islander heritage, her Dreamtime-inspired race kit completely made of recycled products, the Free the Flag movement, and finish up discussing her involvement with World Bicycle Relief. So I hope you enjoy the second part of the episode that is named Karen Hill, No Hill Left Unclimbed. Enjoy! Yeah. So you'll tell me how you went to the Tour de Timor. It's probably the one I know least about. So tell us what is Tour de Timor? What sort of racing is it?
So Tour de Timor, it was a 7-day stage race. And so over there, it was like, you took all your own camping stuff, and you set it all up yourself. You have to pack it all down yourself. It's probably it's super hard, long, sort of hot days over there, and very through some sections of it, very developing country. It's still a very young sort of country recovering from a lot of, I guess, civil unrest.
Yep.
And but it's also an absolutely stunning country, and probably one that maybe isn't on the top of people's to travel to list sort of thing. But I stayed over there for a little bit longer after the race, and kind of it's known quite a bit, I think, for diving as well, off some of those things, apart from I think coffee is one of its maybe biggest imports or exports. But it's an amazing country, and I don't think the race isn't happening anymore, but it sort of like was my starting point, where that race was you had to take all your own camping stuff, set everything up yourself, and then I think I progressed on to another race where they set the tent up for you. So each stage race, I sort of, it got a little bit more luxurious as I went on.
I'm sure after a big day on the bike, that would be sort of welcomed some days.
Oh my God, yes. But I don't know, you kind of just, accept whatever you have at the end of the day. And and you kind of just, you're probably like so tired that sometimes it doesn't matter where you end up laying down and going to sleep.
Yeah, I hear you. So how many competitors were in that race competitor-wise? Like, was there a fair few in it?
I don't actually remember how many were in that at the time, but they used to attract quite a few because they used to pay really well. So you get people, and that was where I had met there was another girl sort of from Portugal and had come over, and there was people that had traveled sort of from all over the world that would come and do it, and people from Malaysia and things like that, because the prize money was really good, and they did it as a way. There was a few different ways you could do it. So, you could join up as a team. And so there was quite a few Australians that would go over and do it. So I think I don't know exactly how many, but yeah.
But it was obviously a pretty diverse range of people from around the world. They come in to do these races, I've noticed, and it's pretty awesome.
Yes. Yeah, there certainly is.
So you also did the Himalayan stage race in India. Did that go up through like Ladakh and all that, or where did that race take you through to?
Not that high. So I guess that one's a little bit more sort of in the foothills, really, of the Himalayas. So you start in Shimla and finish, it's in the town just below where the Dalai Lama lives. I've had a mental blank. I can't think of its name. But with that race, like, you end up, racing through these tiny little villages, and you know, and it's just the places that you see on a bike you would just never go, like if you weren't kind of part of the race or seeing things in a completely different way. And then some stages, you know, you're riding across these like little cliffs, or you're racing down these bloody roads and you got traffic and shit going everywhere, and these sheer just drops off these cliffs. And then, you know, you'd be riding through these like just magical forests. And so, you know, you just had bits of everything. And that race was pretty awesome. Like they set all your tents and everything up for you. And at 5 o'clock every night, they would bring out like a urn of hot chai.
Oh,
and it was just the best thing. Like you'd get at the end of the day and sort of cleaned up and everything. And then you'd just be like chai time every night. And, you know, if they did, I think they did food and everything pretty well. Like I don't know, out of all those trips I've done, I've never got sick. Never got sick on any of them. Touch wood.
Pretty lucky. Yeah, I've had friends. I think all my friends who have raced have all been sick.
No, so even out of like Tour de Timor, so over in East Timor, and so there was India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, you know, even the stage race in Canada and things like that. Like I never got sick on any of them. And yeah, and there'd be other people that would, I guess, just got, you know, there's benefits to probably just eating everything and anything, like you.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had, you know, allergies or, you know, anything like that. So I don't know. It worked out pretty well for me, I figure.
Yeah, maybe that PhD in nutrition has turned you into Superwoman or something.
Yeah.
It's funny because like my mate Maddie was saying he got sick at Yak Attack, and he said it was caused from riding through these villages, but the sanitary issues, and they have like drainage where, you know, and he was right, and it comes up on your drink bottle, then you drink out of your drink bottle, and then he got sick, and he's just like, no. Yeah, so yeah, pretty easy to get sick in those sorts of countries, isn't it? Lucky you've avoided it thus far.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's pretty lucky, like all of those trips. And yes, yeah. But it was even, you know, I don't know, we found, because with the Nepal trip, I'd gone over a little bit earlier, and I'm probably getting ahead and going off on another tangent.
Talking about racing, it doesn't matter now.
So, because Corey Wallace and his friend Pat were coming over and we're originally going to do this other trip. And they're like, do you want to come and just do this trip kind of like as a climatization thing before Yak Attack? So I was like, yeah, okay. And got over there, I was like, oh yeah, we're just going on this trip. Like I'll just shove everything in like my Camelback, that'll be fine. And no, like needed like bike packing bags. And it was just lucky that they had spares. I had no idea what I was doing, never been bike packing. And we'd sort of tacked on to this other trip because the original guide and things are what we were going to go and do, he'd had an accident and couldn't go. So Corey had spent a bit of time, or spends quite a bit of time in Nepal over there, and he knew another guide going out, and he was taking a few Spanish guys. So we'd sort of tacked on to their trip, and we were going to do Manaslu Circuit. And it was sort of something that none of us had done, so we didn't really know what to expect. But that was probably harder than Yak Attack itself. And I'd probably say it's probably one of the hardest things physically, that first couple of days that we set out, even the first day, within the first 30 minutes, and we'd sort of gone, like I'd met Corey, once before at one other race, and I was sort of the only girl going on this trip. And within the first sort of 30 minutes of riding, I've ripped my tire. And so I've had to sort of stop and fix this. And then I was like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And so then, we'd already lost heaps of time doing that, and then, had to catch up and finished. The other guys were getting a van to the first night's accommodation, and we got there sort of after dark that first day. And then the next day was the same. Like, it was just full gas, like, for the whole time. And I've never cramped so bad in my whole entire life. And there was like that day there was a lot of sort of hiker bike and going along. And I remember even, my fingers were cramping when I was trying to lift up my bike. And I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? Like, how am I even going to like get through the next sort of six days? And we got to accommodation that night, and I just remember, like, I just ate so much food. And the next day just woke up, and I sort of set out a little bit earlier, and then you just have those moments, and I was just like, oh my God, like, stop and look around, and you're like, this is actually the most amazing place like I've ever been. And you've got these massive mountains around you everywhere. And that trip was just awesome, like sort of experiencing that. And but that trip, I think we did Manaslu in maybe 5 days, I think we did it in. And, they would usually not do it in any less than 12.
Yeah, right.
Then to give you some idea of the pace that we're going on. But you could sort of settle down and get into your own rhythm quite a bit after those first couple of hectic days. And I don't know, you just kind of appreciate, it's just a simple thing: get up, eat, ride your bike, eat some more, and keep doing that day after day. And I think that's kind of the beauty of stage racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's taken you into, you're just continuing further. So every day is a new scenery to look at, and a new adventure, and probably a new hardship as well in those sorts of racing, and test your mental limits as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the fun with stage racing. There's so many other components that come into it. It's not just a one-off race that, you have to be able to do. You have to be able to look after yourself, from nutrition to, mental aspects, to your physical body and your bike and everything else over an extended period of time. And it's that being able to, I guess, find your physical limits and go past them.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit is sort of, I guess, what do they call that? Type A, type of fun, where, and especially in those areas, you've got so many other variables in terms of the elements and just the conditions and things that, thrown at you as well. So I think that's kind of, part of the fun and part of the challenge with stage racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear that from every stage racer I know. It's just the whole challenge, and you finish it and you just relieve that it's over, but you sort of want to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like, no, I can't do anymore. I need this to be over and done with. And then, then all of a sudden it is over, and you're like, I don't want it to be over.
Yeah, when's the next one? Come on. Don't leave me hanging. And that also brings me to Rumble in the Jungle. Like, I've spent some time in Sri Lanka as well. How did you go in that race? I heard it was really good one, because do they even do it anymore? I don't even know if they do it anymore.
No. So that year may have actually been the last year that they ran that race, because one of the Nepalese riders actually didn't make it home. He and I think that race, it's just like a freak accident. There was nothing, nobody could change the course of that. And it's sort of, it was probably one of the saddest races that I've probably, been on. And they ended up cancelling it a day short. I think it was maybe the 4th day that they had done that. But at the same time, it just makes you realize, the risks that we take are there, and, you take for granted that you're going to go home every time. But also, life's short and precious, and you've got to make the most of, every day sort of thing. I think that race was probably good for that. And it's sort of like, well, why wait for something else to happen sort of thing. So and I think that's a lot of now taking into consideration and things like that. It's like, well, why wait? Why work so much if you can play a little bit as well? What are you kind of building a future for a future that might not come?
Yeah. I agree.
So,
I agree.
Yeah. So it's sort of, it was a sad one, but it was also, one of those ones that really make you realize and appreciate the life and everything else that you have around you and the opportunities that come.
Mm-hmm.
But even like, I'd definitely go back to Sri Lanka again. And, if they put that race on, because you go through some amazing countryside.
So beautiful. I rode a motorbike over there for a month, and it just, riding up through tea country in the mountain roads, it was just incredible.
Yeah. And that place, talking about like, awesome accommodation. Remember, I think we got to the end of day 3, and it had been one of the longest, hardest stages. And we'd sort of been staying in like just tea houses, and it was just comfortable enough, like accommodation. You had like just a bed and that sort of thing. And at the end of that day, they booked like a 5-star like hotel, and it was so luxurious. And we all walk into the lobbies, we're like covered in mud head to toe, and we're like, and they're like trying to get us to sit down and do that. I was like, I can't I can't sit anywhere. I'm like, I'm covered in mud and I'm completely feral. And but just like the hospitality that they still try and give you, and it's just like, it's fine. I'm like, it's really not fine.
Yes.
Not fine. I can't sit on your seat. But that was like, the best way to finish a super hard stage, and have that. Actually had the best buffet I have ever seen in my whole life. And a dessert buffet. I do maybe have a bit of a sweet tooth, and like there was the dessert buffet for the night, and then the next morning there was like a breakfast dessert buffet. It was the most amazing, probably, buffet experience I've ever had.
How was your multi-stage race in Sri Lanka? Oh, the breakfast buffets were the best.
Dessert buffets, that's it. I'd actually forgotten about them until thinking about that.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's the one thing when I found when I was in Sri Lanka, we were just eating so much. Like I love Asian food, and just eating dal and rice and having fresh fruit all the time, and we had a blast over there. I'd love to go back and explore more, but we rode most of the country, but I'd love to go and see more of it. It's
such an amazing place.
It was actually my sort of my prelude to going to motorbike in India, and I was supposed to leave right when COVID was just starting to grip the world. I was literally weeks away from like a 2-month solo trip around India on a motorbike, and it destroyed me. I was so sad. I was like, the big red button appeared, and I'm like, no, I don't want to beg.
Oh no! So are you going to be able to go and do that like post COVID?
Yeah, I'm definitely going. It's still going to be my next trip, hopefully. So we'll just see how we go in the next 12 months, I suppose. But it's twice now I haven't been able to go to India. So I'm pretty excited to get there.
It will be awesome. I think my initial love with India, my parents, they lived over there for about 8 months.
Oh, wow.
Going back quite a while now, and had they had Enfields, and made their way all up through the mountains up into the high mountains, and tripped around, from Goa down south all the way up through Ladakh and all of those areas. and stuff as well, and stayed up all in the mountains and, you know, seeing their trips and their stories, and probably did it a little different to to they did back in that day, but
yeah, definitely would have been different. No dessert buffets, that's for sure.
Definitely not. But yeah, that sort of, I think, sparked a lot of my interest in some of those countries as well. And it's definitely more trips and things will be happening.
It feels so weird that you don't realize until it's all taken away. I mean, you realize you can't just go at the drop of a hat and go, oh shit, I'm just going to go to India or go to New Zealand or whatever. And next thing, we just can't do it. And like one of my things is like, I'd like to sit and just look at plane fares and go, oh shit, I'd love to go to Mongolia and ride a motorbike across that. That'd be pretty sweet. How much does that cost? Yeah.
You can just dream it up. Although I guess the one thing with COVID, like I'd always look to go outside of Australia and do stage races or something like that. But there are still so many stage races that I haven't done in Australia. As well. Like I haven't even done, you know, like Cape to Cape or Port to Port or, you know, any of those main like stage races that everybody has done. I haven't done them. So I think I probably should try and maybe tick some of those off.
Yeah, the Port to Port looks awesome. Like I always enjoy watching the coverage of that every year. So it looks like a lot of fun. Yeah, some beautiful forests and stuff.
That's what I figure. And it's always nice when you can, you know, you've got a bit of beach and a bit of mountain and throw some wine in there as well. Why not?
Yeah, you know. That's the best part about riding bikes, isn't it? Is like the beers and wines afterwards.
Then it kind of ticks all of the boxes.
Absolutely. So we went on another tangent, but that was good. So the next thing I wanted to chat about. So we talked about Medina, but I want to talk about the Dragon Trail. So it's funny, back when we were building the trails in Derby, that was always a time where they wanted to do a race like this, and it's finally happened. And you kicked ass.
Yeah, that was actually a weird one. And it's funny because I guess there's maybe a little bit of controversy around that race, in terms of there used to be, I think, some of the local people who used to organize another race that was called something very similar, and then these organizers had sort of come in and done it. But I'm kind of like, I just stay out of the politics because I don't know anything. So it's kind of, I guess it's a small place, but the trails are so awesome to race on. And I probably found that style of racing, because you pretty much had to time trial for 3 days straight, because they've made some changes for 2022, which is pretty good, because they set you off in 10-second intervals. So, you know, on the first day, I didn't actually want to win the prologue. It was by accident that I sort of ended up doing that, because I didn't want to go off first, because then, you know, you've got everybody else sort of chasing you. And but it was sort of I was leading the prologue, and then I'd slipped out on a corner, and Catho had sort of gone past me, and then Catho missed the A line. I was like, shit, well, I can't not take the A line, and then put me back on in front. And then I was like, well, now I'm gonna have to go off first. And it was sort of just full gas. But I'd caught a few other of the local guys who'd sort of started a few minutes ahead of me, and then sort of sat in with them. And then, I don't know, it was a really strange, like I just felt awesome through those 3 days, and just managed to sort of put quite a bit of time into everybody. But coming off the back of Medina was sort of a weird feeling, because of the conditions, like I wasn't fatigued or like completely wrecked how it would be after a normal XCO, well, like a dry XCO sort of thing. And I didn't end up racing the short course on the Sunday. So I don't know if that sort of all played into my favor. And then I just had an awesome time
Yeah.
racing
Yeah.
bike and riding really fast on those trails.
Yeah, but you were the first female over the line, but you were like 18th overall or something. And I saw it and I was, the fuck, that is crazy good. Like, so the lineup in that race was actually really good too. Like, you know, like Paul
Yeah.
Vanderplug and stuff in there, and like your times weren't that far off those guys, man. You were on fire. You
Yeah.
gonna go do it again next year and try and defend your crown?
Yeah, I will. It's actually worked out pretty well because nationals are quite a bit earlier this or next year. They're sort of I think mid Feb or something like that, so late Feb. And then there's a couple of weeks between nationals and that race. And I actually thought there's another stage race over in New Zealand that I initially thought clashed with that. But it means that I will be here and do Dragon Trail again. And they've sort of put some changes and stuff to the starts. Like the first day they'll set us off in the 10-second intervals, but then the following days they'll do group starts for the elites or whoever sort of wants to race in that or put themselves in those groups.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good idea because I don't know if it changes, the women's race or, things like that as well. So it's, it'd be good to see what it's like with the changes and stuff that they put in for that. So I actually just went and rode the Dreaming Pools Loop, similar to what we'd done in the race, because I'd never ridden St. Helens outside of the race. So it was actually really nice just to kind of cruise down that trail and take in some of the views and do all of that rather than sort of just going full gas down there.
Race focus and just enjoy. I can't wait to ride all that. The Dreaming Pools Loop and Blue Tier and all that, so much that I haven't ridden in so long. So I can't wait to get down there. It's going to be sweet. So just got two more things I just want to quickly chat about. Not quickly, just want to talk about. It must be on my other sheet of paper. I've completely gone off topics here. Let me have a look here. Here we go. I think I've got this. So your bike kit, right? I found some information about this, and it was completely made of recycled products. And I think you were wearing it when I met you down at the women's race as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But it's got like a lot of Dreamtime style artwork on it, but it's all made of recycled products. How did all that come about?
So that was my kit. So that was my kit before the one I have now. So the company, called Ore. So I think it was out of the Rat Race. It's a company and they designed made bike kit and stuff from recycled material. So that was sort of come through Karsten and Rio Travel. So they're a B Corp. Well, they're the only B Corp travel company in the world. And so B Corps are sort of businesses that I guess pledge to do good and, have to meet certain criteria around ethical and sustainability standards and things like that. So Or was another company that did that. So that was that kit, but I have the same design on my current kit that I have now as well. So I had a Torres Strait Island artist do the artwork. Mm-hmm. And so my family history is all from the Torres Straits, or sort of from Thursday Island up there. And so it's sort of, it's about my family history, and it's sort of all the colors are about the ocean. Like for me, everything comes back to the ocean, and it's sort of my place where I guess I rejuvenate my soul at the ocean. Mm-hmm. And but it's also, I love being in the mountains, and it has elements of the mountains and stuff through it as well. And then elements of community and connections and travel through it as well, and sort of represents that, nothing in sport is ever really achieved alone, and that sort of flows on to life as well. So much of everything that we do, we have massive support networks that allow us to do all of these things. And with the current kit that I have now, Quare have I sort of sent them the artwork, and they sort of put it together on the kit that I have now. And then and then I sort of got Shram and Rio added onto that, and then also the Free the Flag logo, which is I guess another movement with the Aboriginal flag here is the only flag that's copyrighted in the world, and so you can't actually use the Aboriginal flag without paying a white company that profits from it. So the Free the Flag movement,
what?
Yes. So a lot of this you can actually find, and there's a lot that's happening through a company called Clothing the Gaps, and they run the Free the Flag campaign, and you can sign the petition, or they've got sort of a lot more of the journey of the Free the Flag campaign. So they were actually issued with a cease, I think they're cease and something, and they had a certain amount of time to get rid of all of the their sort of clothing and anything else that had the Aboriginal flag logo on it. So, and it's even now you'll see, all the AFL sports teams and things like that will wear sort of Free the Flag t-shirts, or they have Free the Flag jerseys and Free the Flag logo on their jerseys and not the Aboriginal flag, because you have to pay to use that. Even your community organisations, can't have the Aboriginal flag on there, or, that we charge a couple of $1,000s to use the Aboriginal flag. And whereas the Torres Strait Island flag, that was designed, and that was, free, sort of given, I guess, to the community to be able to use and celebrate. So there's, there's a lot sort of happening with that whole sort of Free the Flag movement at the moment, and it's coming up to maybe the 50th year or anniversary of the flag, and so they're trying to get that freed, I guess, at the moment. And my kit is it's always a good conversation starter, and it's I don't know, it's always nice to pull something on, I guess, that has a bigger meaning than just a bike kit.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed about it as well, is that design. Like, you see a lot of standard bike racing kit, it's just, tricolor and then some brands slapped on it. And it's always good to see. I love original design, and I love design that has a lot of story to it as well. And that's really awesome. And it has so much meaning as well. Like, Free the Flag is, pretty important, especially in the sporting industry in Australia. So that's pretty cool that you've taken that step.
Yeah. And it's just, I think, if it creates conversation and even encourages people to look at our history and as a country, I think, especially mountain biking and the time that we spend out in these areas. And, I don't think a lot really goes into acknowledging the traditional owners, of the lands that we do ride on. And it may even just be, as well, what seems a simple acknowledgement at the start of a race. Anybody can do that. But, nobody really ever does. And it sort of stands out. Like, they did a really beautiful acknowledgement and things at the Cattlemen's 100 up in Omeo last year, I think it was. And it's something you don't have to be an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island person to do an acknowledgement. And I think it just creates awareness and starts really opening up the conversation for our Aboriginal history. Because everybody knows European history, but nobody really knows our actual history of the country.
No, and you're
Um,
absolutely right there. When I worked for World Trail, a lot of the mountains we work on, we always had cultural heritage meetings at the start, and we meet with the local tribe. Tribes Building Falls is the Deuteroa people, and every season I worked there for 4 summers straight, building the bike park there with World Trail, and every year we meet up with them. We talk about the area. They tell us all the significant parts of it. And it was the same when I worked in Cairns building trails as well. We did all the same things, and it's great, and you learn so much from them. Just about the history, and not many people really give it the time of day they'll just brush over it, and then that's it. It's just like move on to the next thing. But I find all that sort of stuff interesting.
yeah, it really is. And I think even, things like, people know about, the big world wars and things like that, but nobody actually thinks about, our national frontier wars that, happen right on our doorsteps here, and things like that. And just I guess acknowledging their history and celebrating our history.
Yeah, and I mean, it is, we're getting slowly better at it. And, I think with the advent of the internet and social media, it's a lot easier to get these stories out there. But it's never enough, is it? Like, everyone seems to just get pulled away to Netflix or whatever. They forget about all the stuff that can educate you. I think there's just so, and like we were talking about earlier, everything's just so consuming in your life that, sometimes you just don't even think, to be honest.
That's the thing, and it is, and it sort of happens, and things definitely are improving, bit by bit, and it can just be, conversations like this, and a bike kit that somebody comments on it, and asks about, or things like that, and so it's like, any small conversation that you can have, or an opportunity to share information with somebody, is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. And I'm just a history nerd anyway, so I just soak in that stuff like a sponge. So speaking of these sorts of things, I want to talk about, just to finish up, about Pedal to Empower and the World Bicycle Relief.
Okay.
And after seeing some of your posts on social media, I looked into it a bit more and checked out the website, and it blew me away, like I said earlier when we were chatting. And I started reading through their website at the work they're doing around the world in developing countries, especially in rural areas. And then I came across the buffalo bike, and I was just like, what is this? And and that has a whole page about the engineering, and I love that sort of nerdy stuff too. And it's incredible, to be honest. And so tell us a bit about what the World Bicycle Relief is, and then I'll get you to tell us about the buffalo bike as well.
Yeah, so I came across World Bicycle Relief last year at their Pedal to Empower event. I hadn't really heard about them or really seen much about them. And then, because obviously SRAM support World Bicycle Relief, or the founder, one of the founders of SRAM, is also the founder of World Bicycle Relief.
Okay.
And so the Pedal to Empower event popped up. I think SRAM had shared the Pedal to Empower event, and I kind of came across it, and then I looked into what it was, and it was I just had this moment of, I have to do something with this. And I had just moved back to regional Vic not long before that, so I wasn't sort of stuck in the lockdowns that Melbourne was at the time. And it just resonated a lot with me in terms of, raising money to be able to provide bikes and empower these women and girls in these countries, so that, they could get an education, they could get work, or, they could help their communities, or, essentially, like I think they say, it's empowering them to thrive and step out of their poverty cycle. And to me, that's just like everything about bikes. Like, you don't always have to race a bike. You can ride a bike. Like, it can bring so much enjoyment, or, it can completely change someone's life by doing that. So that event was sort of the first I had come across World Bicycle Relief. And then it was sort of from that event, I was kind of like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Like, need to I guess do a ride that's going to be, crazy enough for the day. And that year I ended up raising like over $3,000, like $3,500 or something. So it was so ridiculous because I was kind of like, oh, it's COVID. I don't want to ask anybody for money because, it was the first part of it, and people, were businesses and stuff were shutting, and people were having, their own hardships and things like that. And I was kind of like, well, it seems a little insignificant, but do it anyway. And people were so generous with donating everything, and ended up doing, I think, maybe like 270K or something like that, because it just turned out to be, and I sort of just had a bit of a look at some different maps, and then I was sort of like, oh yeah, maybe I'll do like 150K, like sort of, that was kind of, my longest rides and things that I'd probably done. And then I sort of done 150K ride. I was like, nah, I can do that. And then I sort of found this loop that was like 270K. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I can finish that. And yeah, it was definitely, it sort of just had this like light drizzle, and I sort of went out into the Strait, and it was part of one of the Audax rides that they do. And I had some issues with my lights, and then sort of ended up losing a front light and didn't have a front light, and starting to get dark, and got to the last servo stop, and I was like, oh, maybe they'll have a light. And the only thing they had was one of those, those big, like massive torches that are like the bricks.
Dolphin torch.
Yes. So they had one of them, but they didn't have a battery to go with it. And I was like, oh no. And I still had like 25K to get home. And I think I must have been riding for maybe 10 hours or 11 hours or something like that. And it was kind of dark and cold. And I just like got a packet of chips and a Red Bull and sat down. I was like, okay, I don't want to ride anymore. And I was literally like looking up taxis, and I'm in like Fish Creek, and the nearest taxi is like half an hour away, and I'm like, I'm gonna freeze in between that time. And then I was like, oh, I could call my sister, but she was like an hour and a half away, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna freeze. And so I had like this little snack bag on the front of my handlebars. So I got my phone torch, put it in like a Snaplock bag, and just set it up out of my Ziploc bag and turned the torch on. So, and I guess being dark as well, like I had a rear light, but I could hear cars and stuff coming, and being like country roads, like it wasn't super busy anyway. So then I was just got out and got riding, and it's so funny. Some of those times, once you actually get going in the light drizzle in the dark, is like some of the most peaceful times to actually be out riding. And that was my first pedal to empower ride. And then, so this year I sort of did it again, but being over in Tassie, I was sort of like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And initially I was like, oh, I'll do the Tassie trail sort of from Dover, from one end to the other, but it was just too much coordination in a short period of time. And so I ended up doing a big loop from my place out into Hobart, and it was sort of I don't know what happens on that day, but it just seems to turn into an epic day, and probably like one of the hardest 70Ks I've ever ridden in my whole entire life. And I turned up, like I was meeting a friend to go ride some single track, turned up like 2 hours late, and she's like, where have you been? And because it was like 100K like gusting winds on top of the mountain, and in my head I'm like, yeah, I've told her my route that I'm doing, and I get there and she's like, you didn't even tell me your route. And I was like, I'm sure I did, but it's like one of these things. And I've turned up and she's like asking a ranger where I am and what's happened, and I was like, oh shit, oopsies. So pedal to power, I kind of figured that it's always, for us, it's a choice to be out there doing it. But for them, where the bikes and stuff are going, it means that they can, they can safely get to school, or, get to work, or, I think there's even now a few of the girls that they've trained up to be mechanics.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of love. Like the bikes are designed and built to last in their conditions. But then they also train people up to be able to look after the bikes. So, and learn the mechanics and do all of that sort of stuff. So, they're self-sufficient over there, and it's creating an industry and income and work and things like that as well. So, yeah, it's kind of just, and it's really just the power of bicycles in all sense of the words.
Absolutely. It's just been one of my mantras since I got into bikes when I was 30, when I got into mountain bikes, and it changed my world for sure. But I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I hadn't have been for bikes. So, I've gone from that to trail building to running a bike park events and now doing a podcast. Like, I never thought I'd be doing this when I was 29 years old, and then hit 30, got bikes, and now I'm here, a decade later. But it's, I was really interested in the website, how they were training mechanics, but they were also explaining the bike, because they found that in most developing nations around the world, everyone's riding these shitty old secondhand bikes and they break and they can't fix them because there's no parts. So they're trying to build a bike that's robust, that can be used for transport, can be used for utilities and all sorts of different things, and try and make it one thing so they could all learn to use it and all learn to repair it as well. And I think that is where the strength in this is, and that puts more bums on seats as well. I think if they're riding something that they're confident in, they're going to use it more. And a lot of the countries I've traveled to as well, bikes are a major anything with wheels, and everyone seems to be happy riding bikes as well. It doesn't matter if it's a shitter over there or it's a good one.
Yeah, it does not matter at all. It's like, if you have a bike and it goes, that's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And bikes are just the damn best.
Yeah. And it's great. Like, at the moment, the rider who's doing the Tour de France, is it Lachlan Morton? And he's doing like the bikepacking route, and pretty much doing the whole Tour de France routes, plus all the the transport stages as well, raising money for World Bicycle Relief at the moment. He's raised some astronomical amount of money at the moment, and really raising the profile of World Bicycle Relief. And so he's trying to get to the end of the Tour de France before the race does, or racing them to Paris or wherever it finishes. Probably should know that, but I don't.
So I don't follow road racing that much, so I'm just going to plead ignorance.
Neither do I. I kind of, I'm pretty bad. Like, I love riding my bike and doing all of that, but probably when it comes to watching other things, I'm kind of probably out riding my bike rather than watching it.
Yeah. Like, I get excited for World Cups. I love downhill and I love watching Women's World Cup. It's always so compelling racing. Like, I just find it's just, the racing that goes in with women's riding is just so intense all the time at the world level at XCO. It's crazy. My mate Matt, he's a photographer, and he's done photography, and he goes, women's racing is like some of the best stuff to photograph because it tells a story from beginning to end, and the racing's always close. It's not just Sherwood winning all the time.
That's so true. And there are so many women that would be capable of winning a race. Like, it's, apart from the young French girl at the moment who's like dominating.
Yeah.
There are so many people who, could choose as a winner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always love watching the women's racing. So to finish off, I got a couple. I always finish with a couple of short little questions. So what's next for Karen Hill? What's she doing next?
So race-wise, I got a few races locally in Tassie. One of the clubs does some just club racing over winter, and then I'll be aiming for marathon champs over in Dwellingup in WA, mid-September. And then sort of haven't really planned too much past that, to be honest. Like, October and November. October, there's a few stage races on, which are sort of tossing up between, because they're sort of all on at the same time. Cape to Cape's on, which is one I haven't done, but Croc Trophy is also on at the same time as well, which I'd love to do. And especially like with Cape to Cape and all of that, they've sort of all gone to pairs racing a lot more now. So sort of maybe leaning towards croc trophy a little bit.
Yeah, it looks so
And then
awesome, that race.
yeah, and it's just sort of one of those, I guess, sort of iconic Australian ones, and just goes through some awesome locations up north. Then it will be cross country nationals again next year, being at Medina, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I'll do some have Dragon Trail, and then go over and do there's a volcanic stage race over in New Zealand.
Awesome.
On the North Island. Yeah, so this year's still a little bit up in the air, I guess. Just depends sort of what ends up, sort of happening. I'm a little bit scared to leave my Tassie bubble now.
You've become one of them.
Well, especially it's just sort of everything can change so quickly at the moment, and with travel and things like that. So so I'll do a fair bit more exploring sort of locally as well with the trails around here, but outside of marathon nationals, haven't really got a lot locked in yet.
It sounds like you do, though. It's more than what I have when it comes to racing.
Yeah, I've sort of got a lot more next year, I guess, on the cards, really, than I do for the rest of this year. But stuff sort of will come up a little bit closer as well. Sometimes, kind of like to just keep a high level of fitness so that I can just jump on things last minute.
Absolutely, it's the only way to do things, right? Yeah. Do you reckon you'll pull your full face on again? Do some enduro racing? You totally should.
I don't know. I've only got my cross country bike, so I sort of fairly hammered it, even at Red Hill, racing that. And the funny thing was, I was so annoyed because I had that crash on pins and needles, and I couldn't straighten my bars, and otherwise I would have won every stage of that race.
Bugger.
But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind doing just a bit more riding and stuff like at Medina next year, and just hiring a bigger bike and doing that. It is super fun.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy riding up as much as I do riding down.
Yeah. To be honest, I do like riding up, but my motto is up for fitness, down for funsies.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty good motto there. Yeah. So I never say never, because you never know what the future will bring. Yes,
you are correct. That's right.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, if I'd never thrown a leg over a motorbike overseas, I don't think I would have traveled to as many countries as I've been and enjoyed as many countries as I've been to on motorbikes, And then once I did my first trip, it was just like, shit, where am I going next? I want to go explore another country on a moto, and it's all I think about, really, when I'm not thinking about mountain bikes.
Yeah, I think anything on two wheels is an amazing way to explore. You just have a different sense of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I think it brings just being on two wheels. Like, I don't know, I think you're just so much more exposed to the elements, and I don't know, going fast on two wheels is just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love just being in the forest all day as well. It's like I work in the bush all day building trails, and then just even going for a ride, I'm still just stoked that I'm just going riding. I'm just like, I'm still out here. I've been outside for like 12 hours, but this is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'm just sort of in changing. Well, I finish up my job soon, and I'm like, I don't want to work in an office anymore. I don't want to be stuck inside for like 8 hours every day anymore.
Yep. I hear you. So, very last thing. So, trying to plug all your pluggables. Where can everyone find you on the socials?
Yeah, so probably good question. What's my thing? So I'm on Instagram as I think I'm _ Karen Hill. Yep, _ Karen Hill _
We're so professional. We're so professional.
I had to double check that.
It's all right. I'll put it in the description anyway, so everyone can just go click.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
So generally post on Insta most of the time. Pictures of my own little happy bubble. I think, yeah, it's the best way to follow along.
Mm-hmm. And World Bicycle Relief, I think it's worldbicyclerelief.com if you want to check that out and donate to them. Yeah. And they're on Instagram too.
They are. So there is World Bicycle Relief and there is World Bicycle Relief Australia. They actually have a few organizations in different countries around as well, but the World Bicycle Relief website has a link to the different countries and things there as well. And it gives you a really good rundown on the countries that they work with or are currently working with and have worked with in the past. And, you can see where everything's going and all of that sort of stuff with all of them as well. So
yeah, it's really informative and really awesome. They've done a great job with the website, and it's it's incredible. Like, I really enjoyed checking it out, and I'm looking forward to looking further into it as well myself. And hopefully, maybe doing something with them in the future through the podcast would be sweet. I think it's so important to do things like this for developing nations, So it's great. Get more butts on bikes, as I always say.
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah, can never have enough butts on bikes.
No, never. Anyway, you can find me at the TSG Bikecast on Instagram and also on YouTube at That Stoked Guy, where this episode will be floating around with our beautiful faces on it for an hour or two. And that's it. We've done a podcast. We did it. We're professionals and awesome at this. Now I just got to hope I don't press the erase button at the end of this. What do I do? Yeah, thanks so much, mate, for giving up some time and hanging out. I really appreciate it. And if I see you around the races, I'll come and jam my little voicey microphone in your face again for a chat. For sure.
Yes, sounds good. And you'll have to let me know when you're over in January. I will no doubt still be on the island. And hook up for a ride or something.
Sounds awesome, mate. Would like that a lot. You'll be waiting for me a lot. You'll just hear me go, dying up the hills on my big enduro bike.
Maybe then I'll have to pull on my full face or something like that.
Bingo. We'll have a trade-off. Yeah. All right, mate. Thanks again so much. This was awesome. And good luck this weekend racing too.
Awesome. Thank you. It will be fun.
Yeah, okay. See you next time. And that's
Bye.
it. And we've done it.
Awesome.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really, really enjoyed chatting to Karen. She's an interesting character. She's done a lot in her short time riding bikes as well. She started a lot later, not as late as I did, but she's become a pretty well-rounded stage racer and endurance rider, and she just has a great bubbly spirit, and she just really froths on riding. So big respect to her, and I can't thank her enough for giving up some time to chat to me. So you can find Karen Hill at her Instagram at, I think it was _Karen Hill_ on Instagram. Also check me out on the TSG Bikecast on Instagram and That Stoked Guy on the YouTubes for these episodes. And also check out World Bicycle Relief. Great work on the website. I was instantly just blown away by how much work goes into these bikes that they build, and teaching people also to be bike mechanics and how to look after their own bikes. And it's really quite inspiring. I don't like using that word too often. It sounds a bit douchey, I suppose, but it's quite inspiring to me, and I think it's really cool. So check those out, and if you have any spare coins, donate, because even just a few dollars from a bunch of people can get another bike to another set of hands in developing nations. So anyway, that's the end of the episode, and we'll see you all next time. I love you all, and see you out in the trails.